We have Not the Bee saying, woke people are not happy that Cracker Barrel removed LGBT and DEI language from its website. Woke is dead. Most people are celebrating. Here's some tweets from woke people, apparently. I'm fine with the old logo, but removing LGBTQ and DEI content is just a dastardly move to appeal to the intolerant to shore up business. Sold out, no business for me. They call me Jimothy, said they went full Nazi quicker than Jake Tapper, and he was quick. Someone named Tinkerbell, also on Blue Sky, said, damn, now I care about its capitulating to Nazi bullies. I'll miss its chicken pot pie, but actually, Costco's are way better, way cheaper, and I have 5 days of leftover pot pie meals that are even better than the first. Someone else said, disgusting, pandering, disgusting food, degenerate culture. Someone else said, Cracker Barrel has always been racist towards, and they got away with it. If you're black and you're still buying that shit, shame on you. So now look at them and boycott them and stop buying that shit. Just like Target, there are other places you can spend your money. The food ain't that good. Someone else said, cowards. Unfortunately for many conservatives, the story may come as a wake-up call that pretty much every old-fashioned American institution and company has been captured by the woke mind virus. I don't like calling it the woke mind virus because this feels like fucking YouTube slop language where you can't say kill, you have to say unalived, right? It's not a woke mind virus. It's Marxism, brother. Call it what it is. Holy shit. We reported in 2023 about Cracker Barrel's gay pride statements, and if that wasn't warning enough, in 2022 we warned you that they were introducing vegan sausage. Here's what Cracker Barrel said about quietly removing all the woke stuff from its website. Oh, let's see what they decided to paste here. In connection with the company's brand work, we have recently made updates to the Cracker Barrel website, including adding new content and removing out-of-date content. A Cracker Barrel spokesperson told CNN in a statement. Several months ago, the company also made changes to our business resource groups that now focus all sponsorships or events on our corporate giving initiatives, addressing food insecurity, supporting community needs through food, and reducing food waste. And the author of this article, in all of their room temp IQ glory, said, woke equals out-of-date content. No, they are changing the language. The way that they have gone about DEI is the out-of-date content. The way that they are wording it is to hopefully ensnare enough room temp IQ people into believing that they're actually getting rid of the woke. And so my tweet on the matter, before people start getting excited and claiming we're winning bigly, massively even, removing public DEI info was an easy way for Cracker Barrel to calm the fire from people angry at the logo change. They changed the logo back, and thankfully we did get a win there. Celebrate that one, because without the crazy amount of outpouring anger over the global homogenization change, I doubt they would have reversed it. Great job, all of us. Celebrate winning battles, but don't let people lie to you about the war being over. This is just a corporation announcing something they did months ago in the hopes to earn back a bit more trust after the logo fiasco, and it is not getting rid of DEI. So again, in the article, Cracker Barrel said that these are changes we have already made. They have already made the changes to language. They have already made the changes to the business resource groups. They have already made the changes to not report to like the HRC, to not fund the pride campaigns anymore. They've already done this. They just didn't say anything publicly. But now that they have this fiasco of public outrage over the change to the logo, changing the logo back isn't simply going to be enough to get back enough customers. So what do? They come out and say, oh, we've made all of these changes. We're getting rid of these things that you guys say you don't like. But actually, we're just doubling down and we're committed to them. We're just wording it in a way to make you believe we're doing what you want. The page for DEI has been renamed to Culture and Belonging. Hold on a second. Fat Electrician thinks the logo change is a marketing gimmick. The logo drama got them more advertising for free than they ever had. I do not believe that. I do not believe that the logo change is a marketing gimmick. The logo change is very obviously in line with almost every other corporation using Globo Homo in order to reduce familiarity, reduce individuality, and bring everything into a corporate minimalist art style. So no matter where you go, nothing stands out, nothing is individual, everything has the same corpo slop signage. Now, where I would agree with the Fat Electrician is him saying that renovating the buildings and making every building like a bland Globo Homo slop cube is so that the people who own the land can then make their money back easier, right? Because if they always kept their iconic signage, and not their sign, iconic like building architecture, like the McDonald's roof, the Pizza Hut roof, the shape of certain restaurants, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you turn that Pizza Hut into a post office. We always know it's a Pizza Hut, right? So, like, I can agree agree that possibly the architecture is simply the people who own the land wanting it to be easier to sell if a restaurant goes out of business. That makes sense. The logo? No, the logo has nothing to do with that. The page for DEI has been renamed to Culture and Belonging like every other company for the past 2 years. They aren't getting rid of it, just obfuscating the language. They even tell you directly that they're merely removing out-of-date content. There's also no mention of woke propaganda by Cracker Barrel, so that part is an outright lie. And that is from this news report thing saying Cracker Barrel will end funding for Pride events and remove woke propaganda, quote unquote, from its site after massive boycotting. They did not say that. And the person posting that from Leading Report is once again trying to make people believe that we are winning. And then I have an excerpt here from the Cracker Barrel statement where it says, Cracker Barrel confirmed it has removed the Pride section from its website and claimed it made changes to its BRGs in a statement obtained exclusively by Fox News Digital. In connection with the company's brand work, we have recently made updates to the Cracker Barrel website, including adding new content and removing out-of-date content. A Cracker Barrel spokesperson told Fox News Digital. Cracker Barrel's Pride page, which listed the Nashville Pride Parade it sponsored, was no longer visible on its website when Fox News Digital checked Wednesday. The website link for the page now redirects to the restaurant chain's Culture and Belonging site. And I continue. As for Cracker Barrel's BRGs, another renaming of ERG, or Employee Resource Group, America First Legal has been targeting companies with ESG and DEI policies and trying to cut out the rot at its core. Bridge has advocated, and we have seen some companies start to roll this out in order to get around both the DEI executive order and America First Legal's lawsuits over discrimination, that companies should expand enrollment to ERGs to include quote-unquote allies, so that the definition of the ERG would no longer be exclusionary. As an example, if there's an African-American ERG, you can now join if you are not African-American, as long as you are dedicated to improving environments for African-Americans. And we saw this when I talked about Lunduke Journal's dive into what Red Hat has been doing and how they've removed like ally badges. They've reoriented the language of their employee resource groups as well. They just don't want the visibility of like, this is pegged as an ally in this ERG that they normally wouldn't be accepted in. So they've done the exact same thing as well. But here's another article excerpt. What's really being challenged? Here's what America First Legal is focusing on in their complaints. That ERGs, or BRGs in this case, offer benefits only to specific identity groups. They use language like develop black leaders or empower women. That even if anyone can technically join, the stated purpose excludes others. This was after some universities tried getting around this by being like, oh, anyone can join, but we just might not accept you if you're not the right person. Don't worry about it. Right. So it's like they start trying to attack the specific language legally, which I think will be really difficult to do. And this goes back to my, how do you fight people that are constantly subverting language and constantly lying about what their goals are? That company-sponsored identity-based programs create discriminatory employment conditions. In the Cracker Barrel filing, they specifically highlight that the Black BRG states it supports the development of Black leaders, that the Latino BRG provides opportunities for Latino members, that the LGBTQ plus Alliance provides a space for LGBTQ plus people, that the Women's BRG helps women grow personally and professionally. They even cited the use of the word promotes as problematic, suggesting it could imply actual promotion or professional advancement opportunities tied to race, sex, or orientation, which, as we've seen, is correct in a lot of cases. Here are some articles I read in July that expands on the idea pushed by Bridge and Sherm last year. The tweet of mine from April 9th, Cheryl Dijk's point 5 in April's Bridge Buzz on the Project Forward guidelines, addresses ERGs and similar groups. And no one who's reading this, like I already took up tons of fucking space, but nobody who's reading this who doesn't already watch me or know what Sherm is going to know what I'm referencing here. Sherm is the like organization of HR representatives that sort of informs how HR works in every corporation. And the leader of Sherm during the conference told everyone that for too long they made white males feel like they are outside of consideration, and that if they want their cultural changes to actually take effect, they need to get white males on their side, which is why employee resource groups need to start opening up to allies and need to make people feel like they are going to belong somewhere in order for them to start championing the causes of DEI.
We're going to keep it simple. Yes, we're going to always focus on D, but we're going to lead with inclusion, because we need a world where inclusion is front and center, and that means inclusion for all, not some people. Everyone has a right to feel that they belong in the workplace and that they are included. Now, if we think the game that we played over 30 years, which is to make some people feel badly about what they have done or their ancestors have done or whatever, if you think that's going to solve a problem, it didn't work over 30 years.
The most hilarious part of Cracker Barrel's fail is the investor screaming this rebrand was stupid is Sardar Biglari, son of Persian refugee who fled from the Iranian Revolution and is pro-American. Also owns Steak and Shake and all other American restaurants. Yeah, that was wild. That was wild learning about, like, the guy who they should have listened to, who made, like, these giant reports about how it's fucking wrong to do what they're doing. And then, like, all the tweets from Steak and Shake dunking on Cracker Barrel made a lot more sense. So this was the tweet that I linked from back in April this year. Whistleblowers are important. This is also in response to Lunduke Journal's investigation on the tech stuff he was doing. This is a perfect opportunity to read the April Bridge buzz and read through Cheryl's Project Forward, tips for companies to stay committed to DEI. And then the DEI changes at Red Hat again. And the changes in Red Hat basically adhere to what she's talking about in this. But point 5... the Civil Rights Act and the legal protections it affords remain unchanged. Continue to review your DEI practices to ensure that they are compliant with Title VII. For example, internships are open to all applicants. Mentorships open to all employees. Allies are invited to attend ERGs, etc. Once again, they're not changing anything. Nothing is moving forward. They are obfuscating what they're doing by using language that they think will make sure they don't get caught. The excerpt below is from an interview with Kenji Yoshino, a man I found while looking into David Glasgow, executive director of the Diversity and Inclusion Center at NYU Law. And in this interview, the interviewee said, "With that said, what DEI programs do you see most at risk that companies might choose to stay away from?" And Kenji responded, "I want to be clear because I often hear that people are leaning out of these programs, but we like to think of it less as a cut and more as a shift in thinking while keeping the same commitment." One of the most common things we see is people saying any kind of targeted program is legally risky. A good example would be something like the fellowships that law firms offered that said in order to have said fellowship, you have to be a person of color. That is risky. But firms didn't jettison these programs altogether. They shifted them to say that anyone can apply for the fellowships, but it's going to be thematized around the advancement of diversity and inclusion. You can apply for this no matter who you are, but you need to have shown a commitment to advancing diversity and inclusion. In our terminology, this has shifted from cohorts to content. And the interviewer asks, "Can you share more about what this means?" And Kenji responds, "Cohorts are limited to a particular cohort of individuals, like if only people of color could apply. Content is anyone can apply, but the content of the fellowship is still thematized around the advancement of people of color. That distinction took care of the legal issues." Once again, pointing out, saying blatantly in your face, we have changed nothing. We are going to change nothing. We are going to continue marching in lockstep because DEI is not just a moral imperative. It needs to be embedded into every business. And no matter what we tell you with our language, we're going to keep doing this. So maybe now, instead of having an affinity group that's closed, you say it's an infinity group for Black individuals or Asian individuals or LGBTQIA plus individuals, and allies are welcome. Also, a retreat or development program that historically would have been only for women to close gaps in gender representation now can't only be for women. You have to allow men to go into that program as well, but it can still be thematized around the advancement of women. There is no reasonable expectation that they will not discriminate given this new wording. They should get sued by the federal government. Well, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like when America First Legal started bringing lawsuits against all these companies, that's when they started changing, okay, we can't have an African-American ERG, but we can have an ERG that anyone can apply to that is solely focused on the advancement of African-Americans. And then America Law First was like, wait, that word advancement of African-Americans is problematic because you're still putting them, because of their race, ahead of everyone else. So America First Legal is going after all of these companies and trying to stay ahead of them changing the language. But because these are Marxists you're dealing with, and like their bread and butter is obfuscation of language, it's going to be very difficult to keep up this sort of battle of the language. And then because like I this is where I can't like condense what I look up here, because I expected people to just be like, well, who the fuck is Kenji Yoshino and why should we care about anything this random person you found said? What does this have to do with companies and corporations? Like, he could just be some schizo saying shit and you're just promoting this as fact. I was like, Glasgow and Yoshino published a book together. They both helped set up like diversity and inclusion shit at colleges. They're both troubling. And this book isn't just a book, chat. The authors behind The Crucial Read, Gretchen Rubin, New York Times bestselling author, Say the Right Thing, returned with this groundbreaking manifesto for reimagining the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion in a divided America. The work of DEI has faced a relentless political and legal assault. Without a clear path forward, progress towards fairness in our workplaces, universities, schools, and other institutions risks grinding to a halt. So how do we build a more just world when the old playbook is no longer viable? In this bold manifesto, Kenji Yoshino and David Glasgow, founders of the Meltzer Center for Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at NYU School of Law, candidly unpack where DEI went wrong and offer a daring new vision to overcome the rising barriers to equality. Drawing from their legal expertise and extensive experience advising Fortune 500 companies and nonprofits, Yoshino and Glasgow provide practical, research-backed guidance for employees seeking respectful workplaces, parents concerned about school culture, and organizational leaders striving for success in a rapidly diversifying nation. How dare they promote a far-right Nazi conspiracy? How dare they? In an era when equality feels imperiled, How Equality Wins provides an urgent and hopeful call to action. And so I said, bringing the info trail back to Cracker Barrel, unless a company fires employees responsible for instituting and embedding DEI policies and comes out overtly stating they were wrong to engage in DEI, there is no reason to believe they are doing anything other than following in lockstep with other corporations who are relabeling and obfuscating what they're doing with DEI in order to avoid lawsuits. Cracker Barrel is covering its ass while under scrutiny and lawfare from America First, and it's legal, but I said law, not actively shifting directive. So once again, we're not winning, and it makes me feel wild. Let me see, because I know it was posted to me. Robbie Starbuck posted, huge. Our movement has achieved total victory once again. Total victory, by the way. Our boycott against Cracker Barrel has resulted in them ending funding for Pride events, already done before this happened, removing woke propaganda from their site, didn't happen, changing their ERGs, and changing their logo back. Changing their ERGs happened months ago, and it's not a real change, which is why America First Legal is still looking into them. Changing their logo back is a win, and we should celebrate that, but stop lying to people. Cracker Barrel has just released the following statement to Fox News on the removal of their Pride section and their funding of Pride events. And this is the same exact excerpt we've read a couple of times now, referencing the out-of-date content. As like, how many times can this man read stuff and not understand what he's reading? I don't understand. Our movement is so powerful that even I can't believe it sometimes. While the media credits me with these wins, we all know the truth. These companies don't fear me, they fear us. I'm just blessed to be your megaphone and a pretty damn relentless researcher. I want to remind people that I sent Robbie Starbuck bridge information. I've literally DM'd him information about bridge. So I don't know, man. Until next time, fight the good fight, never back down from doing what's right. And then, like, as these woke companies hate it when an email from you appears in their inbox, Robbie, you're doing God's work. Thank you. This seriously brings me to tears. We've had a voice all along. We just needed someone like you with a desire, experience, and a big megaphone. How often do you follow up on these companies? He said they follow up a lot, but like, I don't know, brother. He's taking credit for the Fox News work. I was like, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, it's like he could have credit if we were actually winning, but like the logo is the win. The rest of this shit isn't a win if you even read what they say to you. He didn't follow up like at all with this one yet. It would be obvious if he read the words they put out and understood them. He responded to a tweet of mine at some point saying that like he was gonna reach out to this company. I don't remember any follow-up happening. In my fucking like organizing of my big bridge document, I had opened up like path information. It's just like every time I go to put sources, it's like a giant fucking spider web, man. But this article I've tweeted several times from Thomson Reuters, and they have some questionable people on their fucking board of directors. Holy shit. But this article I think is incredibly important. And like if somebody is on the we're winning train, I think they need to read this article, if nothing else. This is from 2024, and I reported on it in 2024. Using organizational change to embed your corporate ESG and DEI strategies amid the backlash. Revolutionizing ESG and DEI means treating them as transformational change initiatives rather than transactional tactics to better ensure their staying power and long-term organizational resilience. This was another important paragraph I've highlighted several times. In the recent past, many ESG and DEI efforts were focused on short-term transactional tactics, which didn't serve that strategy well. Given the recent backlash against both of these, through a transactional lens, while ESG and DEI can show immediate results, they often fail to create lasting impact, said Nikki Gilmore, an organizational development expert and CEO of Evolved People. Instead, companies should aim for transformational change that affects the entire organization. This means moving beyond surface-level metrics and isolated programs, and instead working to integrate ESG and DEI into a company's core business strategy. And this is what Bridge has been advocating for years. This is an article I got from reading Bridge Smart Briefs. And then they give you steps here to push transformational change with ESG and DEI. Integrate DEI and ESG into the company's core business strategies. One of the first guiding principles in organizational change is to set a clear vision for both DEI and ESG change initiatives. And this vision must be communicated from the top by multiple C-suite leaders, including the CEO, to establish the direct connection from the outset that these strategies are core to the company's long-term business strategy. They literally tell you in this article that you should forego short-term perceived gains for the long-term strategy. This is what Bridge has been talking about the entire time, to forego short-term financial gains for the long-term cultural control. One of the past mistakes in setting up the DEI and sustainability functions was siloing them into the company's human resource and marketing functions, respectively, with no budget and no power to drive change. Number 2 would be to reshape language to focus on performance. Another crucial step is to reformulate the language around these initiatives, shifting the focus towards performance-oriented goals. To do this, leaders need to make clear why ESG and DEI are important. And then invest in manager excellence. Transformational change in many cases involves cultural evolution and learning, and excellent managers are needed now more than ever to ensure the cultural shifts stick and organizational resiliency is achieved for long-term success. Yes, we need more of our practitioners in positions of management so we can ensure that it is deeply embedded into everyday strategies at every company. I wanted to memory refresh on this since things are we're winning bigly in the kitchen again, unfortunately.